the past is in the past, but you still have to acknowledge the past and hold space for somebody who that was their life too. You know, just because you're starting to get better doesn't mean that things just automatically get better. Things are going to come up. Things are going to resurface. Sometimes that stuff doesn't come out for a few years.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
Anger part 2 today. Anger early on is a pretty understandable thing, but what's not very understandable, it's not exactly intuitive right off the bat, is why do we get angry when things are finally good? Let's say that you've gone through a rough patch in your marriage. You feel really good. And then one day, it's like all this stuff kind of dawns on you. You start to kind of recalibrate the meaning of whatever it is that you just went through. You start to make sense of it a little more. And the result oftentimes is anger. Right when things are going awesome, you two are getting along, you're communicating, there's honesty, there's visibility back in the relationship. And here you are, angry, upset, hurt. Why is that? And what do you do with it? Where is it coming from? How do you identify the source? And what can you do about it? We're going to talk about all of this today. We went through this. Like most things we talk about here, we've got firsthand experience with this. Paige, I know that this is one that you really want to get right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have a lot to say on this. It's about the anger that you feel when your partner is in early recovery or whatnot. And when we say early recovery, I'm talking about the first 5 years of recovery. I'm not just talking about the first 6 months or the first year, because my anger came out year 3 or 4-ish. So we'll get into that because I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, interestingly enough, this stuff can pop up pretty quickly, but a lot of the time there's this delayed effect where it's going to be, like Paige said, like upwards of a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 after, as you start to really look in hindsight and make sense of that. I've got some information on what neuroscience says about this and what psychology says about this, why it's so easy to look past some really difficult things at times. And it's pretty interesting. I think it makes sense. It's going to be a fun conversation at the very least. Bear with me. I've got a cold, and so I'm going to get through this. If I just cut out in the middle of a sentence, it means I've hit my cough button over here.
And I will try to take over.
She's going to do great.
You almost went.
Hanging it in there, man. Just right on the verge of one all the time. No big deal. We'll be okay. I got a steroid shot in my butt yesterday. Hopefully it's got me better off than I would have been otherwise. All right, let's get through. Hey, man, let's get through sponsorships and merch real quick. Start with merch. We've got new merch. I'm wearing some right now. We've got Till the Wheels Fall Off hoodies. We've got this one. We've also got a garnet colored one. I think it's this actual color, garnet. It's like a reddish color with a cream.
It's a little deeper red.
Cream print. It's an awesome hoodie. These are thicker than your average like Gildan hoodies. These are thick. These are awesome. Everything that we sell, we generally try out for quite some time. Like these specific sweatshirts, owned for many, many, many years, and they've gone through a ton of washes. So they hold up. They hold their weight. They're awesome. They're great for laying around. These are like nap hoodies, man. These are like laying around the house hoodies. These are go to the grocery store real quick hoodies. They are comfy, and we hope that you feel right at home as a listener of the show with our logos on these things, and we appreciate all the support you give us. We've also got 3 t-shirts. We've got new recovery rocks. There's one right here. I'm not even going to try to autofocus this right now, but it's got our logo on the front. On the back, it says, "Thank you for being my rock." They come in all different colors. I always just have a black one up here, but they come in rock colors. You know what colors rocks are.
You can see it on the website, all the different colors that are on there.
And you just get whatever we grab out.
Yes.
Appreciate all of you getting those things. We've had several of them going out this last week for stocking stuffers. By the time this episode comes out, it's going to be tight if you see this thing by Christmas. I guess it's possible.
It'll be a week before, so I'm not sure if it will
ship
in time.
Maybe you pay for some expedited shipping on that deal or something. I don't know. We'll do our best to get orders out as soon as they come in, because I know that this time of year, a lot of these are like gifts and stuff like that. But there's never a bad time for merch. You can support us by going to tufo.com. Find out about our free Facebook community is there as well. We got a totally free Facebook community for listeners of the show. Just answer some questions to get in. If they ask, what do we say to greet listeners? It's welcome back, or
hey, y'all, welcome to Paige's Perspective.
One of the two. Maybe a Mindset Monday.
You don't
Monday
have
listener.
an intro for Mindset Monday,
welcome
do you?
to another segment of Mindset Monday. That's it. No, I don't. I honestly, I want to get rid of that too. I just want to start talking. I want to get away from all that. Just start talking.
Shocking.
It's easy. We've got a free Discord channel that I keep forgetting to mention that is also available. Search the community. There's a Discord channel. Facebook used to offer community chats. They no longer do that. So we replaced it with Discord, which is awesome. It's regional. You can meet up with people in your area. There's early recovery chat that's very active in there. People who are just going through it. If you just need to vent, you can do that there as well. It's awesome. There's also listening clubs. We've got podcast listening club. We've got several free community calls every single week led by other members. It's a great way to begin the process of understanding what you've been through. This is for you, a spouse or partner that's walked through this, and it's made for you guys. And it's very unique in that sense that there's not a whole lot for you. And that's what we're here for. Also, hey, if you want to support the show and you think our merch is ugly, that's fine. You ain't hurt my feelings. I totally understand. But there's a buy me a coffee link. If you go to our social media profiles, you can click there, give as little or as much as you'd like. If you give nothing, we still love you to death. It's totally fine. Some people just want to support the show, which we really appreciate. This beautiful picture you're looking at right now is through a new camera made possible by all of that. Everything we've ever made goes right back into the show. We have yet to pay ourselves a single dollar for the show. So we appreciate all of you. SoberLink, hey, sponsor of today's show. If you don't know by now, it is the world's greatest accountability device that is disguised as a breathalyzer. If you are like me and you are trying to rebuild trust in your relationship, it can be a pretty daunting task. Years and years of lies, words that had no meaning. At this point, you're like the boy that's cried wolf and no one believes you, even though you might be as serious as you've ever been. So how do you overcome that? SoberLink is a tool that can help you get there because it sets up a network of people that get notified every time you use the device. So each time that you blow in this thing, it will alert the people in your network immediately. And they'll know, hey, whoever, Matt is doing the deal. He's sober right now. And that helps people in the back of their mind. It's one less thing for them to think about. They can start to think about more important and pressing things in your lives and in the relationship rather than are you drinking or are you not? In addition to that network, SoberLink also has military-grade facial recognition technology and it's tamper-proof. So you can't mess with these things. You can't get around them. You can't scheme. No, if you're going to do this thing, it's got to be for real 100%. And it's not just a gift for you to rebuild trust because that's for you, right? Even though your spouse probably wants that, it's really a gift that you give them, especially this time of year, holidays. This might be a weird gift, but I think it'd be an awesome gift, honestly. If you're really into like, hey, let's do something for each other. Like if I was in this position, there's got to be a pretty cool feeling opening up a stocking or whatever and seeing you've just signed up for SoberLink to take some serious weight off of their plate going into the new year. There's nothing else like it as far as what you can do to really rebuild trust and provide visibility. Spouses and partners are sick of looking for your stuff. They don't want to think about it anymore. Give them the gift of visibility. And they're going to learn one of two things, that they can trust you or that they can't. I think both of those are gifts depending on where you're at. And if you're on the outside of a relationship and you're just looking to make sure your kids are going to be safe, SoberLink is there for you too. It's court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada, and is trusted by over 200,000 people. And right now, you can now rent these devices. No more upfront costs. It used to be $500 plus for a device. Now you can rent them for as little as $19 a month when you sign up for a 1-year qualified plan. And since you're an awesome listener of this show, if you use our link, soberlink.com/wheels, they will send you a $100 Visa gift card that you can use on anything. Holiday bills this time of year, presents, Tufo merch, whatever you want to. The cost of the plan every month, just go to soberlink.com/wheels to find out more. That'll do it. Let's go.
Okay. You did not cough through that. Good job, Boo. I'm proud of you. Are you about to let it out?
I was just fighting to trickle the whole time,
Oh, I hate that feeling. It's the worst. Okay. So last time we talked about the anger that we feel when your partner is in active addiction. And it's very understandable, the anger that comes up. So we've talked about how to manage that or whatnot. But a lot of the times, whenever your partner gets sober, they go to treatment or they start working on themselves, something starts to bubble up in you and you start to become angry and you don't understand why you're angry. You're like, why? Everything is going good. They're doing what I'm asking them to do. They are showing up. They are going, to meetings. They are working on themselves. But something just doesn't, you just feel so angry. So we're going to really break it down into this episode. And like I said before, sorry, Matt's almost having a coughing fit over here. I have so much to say on this and I feel like I'm afraid I'm going to miss some things, but totally okay because I know that a lot of us can't really consume that much information at once anyway. So I'm going to do the best I can here.
I think you're going to nail it.
Okay,
you're
I hope
worried about
so.
Nothing. It's like when you walk into a test. Like,
well, I've really been thinking about this episode because I just think it's super beneficial because I see so many times, like in the community, people we work with, people in our program, that the anger doesn't really start to come out until things are doing well, and they feel really guilty about it. And they're like, why am I doing this? What do I do with this? And the recovery world doesn't really help with this either, because they're telling you, hey, you can't be angry anymore. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They need your support. They need this and need that. This is why we're here. We're here to help you understand that your emotions are valid, and we completely understand. Because like I said, my anger didn't come out until 3 to 4 years after he got sober, because I suppressed that shit for way too long. But typically when your partner is still in active addiction, like you're really focusing on surviving, you're focusing on managing, you're focusing like on the chaos and stuff. And that anger doesn't really come out in a way that, where you can reflect necessarily.
That's a good way to put it. You don't have clarity. You can't
right. You don't have clarity. You can't really figure out. You're like, I know I'm angry because this guy is not doing what I'm asking him to do. He's not showing up as a parent. He's not showing up as a spouse. He's not showing up as an equal partner. He's completely messed up on the couch all the time. Like all of these things, it's one little bit of peace, and you know why you're angry in that moment, but like nothing is changing. But now, you just cannot, whenever they start to get better, you're starting to see things a little bit more clearly. So you're really able to see what's been going on, and you can feel that anger deeper than you could before.
Oh yeah. I think that there are big problems and there are small problems in relationships. And we oftentimes focus on the smaller problems in relationships. And like, I'm just talking about whenever we complain about our partners most of the time, it's petty stuff usually, right? Somebody's not taking that. Okay. And I preface this. I know this stuff can be a big deal over time, but let's just say that someone forgot to bring something home from the store, or someone wakes up late. Like people who complain about this stuff for days on end are encouraged to like, let that shit go.
Right.
Just let it go. Like you got to move on. Like let that go. Like there are big problems. There are small problems. This qualifies as a small problem.
Typically that does show a deeper problem sometimes.
Talking about one-offs here,
but
like, let's not worry about, it's not that big of a deal, right? You've got to drop the shit and move forward.
It's not that deep.
Like grow up, let's walk forward.
Yeah.
And we're encouraged to do that. And I don't think it's wholly bad advice.
No.
I think a lot of times actually that can be a great thing when you can learn not to sweat the small stuff. But this is big stuff. And it doesn't really feel that way though, because it's a culmination of a bunch of small stuff over a long period of time that amounts to big stuff. It's habituation, right? We've talked about this concept in psychology before, where you become accustomed to your environment. Let's say you live in a beautiful place, like gorgeous, like objectively beautiful. Anyone in the world would say, oh, that's a beautiful place they live in. To you, it becomes normal because you live there and you see it all the time. So if you get used to verbal lashings or someone betraying you, this stuff becomes very, very normal. And you don't think about it. It becomes small stuff. It's only once you have distance that you can reappraise the situation and see it for what it was. And that generally takes time and distance from the problem in order to do that. It's oftentimes once you're in safety that you're able to look back and reflect and go, holy shit, that was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did not start to really acknowledge the things that happened until many years later.
Same.
And even with you, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, wow, because we normalize it. Like you said, that's how our life was. Like the lies were normal. The not coming home during, like being gone for multiple hours at a time, or taking money out of the account all the time. Like I normalized that in a way. It was just like, okay, this is just my reality.
Being backed into a corner where you've caught someone lying, but you don't want to press, because if you do, you know that you're going to have to face the fact that they're lying to you, and you really just don't have the time to F with it because you've got kids to raise and a bunch of other stuff going on. So you just stop. You did that a lot too.
I did.
It's
Absolutely.
Like you would stop right before we got to the point where it's like, okay, plausible deniability at this point. I've got things to do.
Right.
But I know what you're up to.
Right.
That kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah. But now that we've been out of it for so long, I look back and I'm like, whoa, dude, like that is not a healthy way of living. I wouldn't want that to be the life for my kids. Like I wouldn't want you to be that type of parent to our kids. I wouldn't want to be that type of parent to our kids, because I would have been a mess too. So there's a little anger that comes out whenever you think back on those times of just like, this is not normal. This is not healthy. This is not okay. But you don't realize that until, well, I didn't realize that until you started to really start to acknowledge what had been done, because there were things that I didn't even know about, obviously, because you lied so much.
Right.
So then when he became sober and he started working on himself, and then he started taking accountability and he started discussing it, and we started rebuilding our relationship, these things would come to light. And I'm like, whoa, like I'm kind of angry about that. I'm angry that A, I didn't know about it. B, maybe I did know about it and I didn't do anything about it. Like there was something that I tolerated. Or C, it's just like, where are we now? Like it makes you not question what you're doing right now because you've obviously, worked really hard to rebuild that trust. But it still makes you, this is why the lies are so damaging to a partner.
This is the assumptive reality, right? Like we had Dr. Jake Porter on. This is my favorite episodes we ever did. We've released it twice now. We need to have him on again. He's got a new book coming out soon, but he says that what happened to you is nowhere near as important as the story that you tell yourself about what happened to you. As new information comes to light and you get that distance, the story changes a bit, and it literally breaks your assumptive reality of what your relationship has been or who this person is. I think a lot of the times the anger is also, it's sort of twofold. You're mad at them, of course. She would be mad at me because I betrayed her. I lied and I pretend like I get away with it, which means that I treated her like an idiot. And then there's also anger with yourself for tolerating it. As you look back and go, I did what? I let them get away with what? Treat me how?
I ignored the red flags, you know. But again, you were really good at what you did.
Yeah, man. For everyone that's like, how could you, like, we're really good at what we do. Like, we're professional liars, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you have to be. Like, addiction and lying go hand in hand. You can't, unless, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's someone out there that's just completely open about it and like, this is what it is and this is me. And it's all out there in the open, but that's generally not the way it works. There's always a level of deceit serving the addiction.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of want to talk about the different reasons why spouses might be angry whenever their partner becomes sober. So we're going to kind of start back there because there are a lot of different reasons. And a lot of the times we don't even know why we're angry. Some of us do know why we're angry because you're like, oh, wow, you know, again, shit's really come to light and I'm recognizing this. But I really want to break down all the other different ways that people could be angry. So whenever your partner becomes sober or they're in recovery and stuff, things are going to start coming to the surface because you're going to feel safer. It's going to feel a little bit like, oh, wow, my body's feeling like things are feeling a little bit better. So now that old anger that you might have suppressed during active addiction is going to come to surface. And this is going to show up being irritable. You're going to feel heavy. You're going to constantly feel on edge, like something's just wrong and you can't really pinpoint exactly what it is or why I'm angry. Sometimes it's not even like a clear thing during that day that happened that really makes you angry. Like typically whenever you get angry in a healthy environment, like you can pinpoint exactly what it is. It's like, okay, my kids left their shoe on the ground or whatever, my shoes. I'm angry about that. I'm upset. That's not, you know, you can pinpoint that, you can correct it, you can move on. But in this situation, you really cannot pinpoint exactly what it is that you're angry about. And that's what makes it really scary because you're like, I don't know what to do with this emotion. Everything's okay. Why do I suddenly feel angry? And then sometimes it's going to create the guilt because you feel like nothing is wrong now. You're like, but there's nothing wrong. Why am I feeling guilty for feeling angry? This is because there's like a buried, there's emotions that are buried. So we've talked about emotions buried alive, never die. It will come back to haunt you if you're not going to deal with it. Another reason you might be angry is because of the unequal partnership that we've discussed before. Recovery, especially early recovery, demands focus from you. Like you have to focus on yourself. You become selfish. I did that in air quotes, but we feel like it's selfish because we've talked about how early recovery is, you know, selfish because you do have to really work on yourself. And then it requires structure and your energy. Like you're having to pour all of your stuff into that recovery. And again, we're kind of left to the side. So that's another reason some of us get angry. That was one of mine that I had whenever we were in early recovery. I don't think I expressed it to you. Did I?
Every so often it would come up, but you kind of tiptoed around it. And I remember it was usually around like meetings and things like that, like being gone like quite a bit.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it'd be like multiple times per week and like stuff would just pop up. And whenever stuff pops up, you're encouraged like be there for the people that are in recovery, right? So it's like, oh, I'm needed to go meet this person for coffee. And like we would have had plans and that would have taken precedent, you know, like early on.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's like your priorities change. Recovery becomes the number one priority of your life. And that's a really, really difficult thing, especially whenever your spouses, partner, your family members have been through so much.
Mm-hmm.
And like nothing, they want nothing more than to get back to normalcy, or how they remember normalcy anyway. To have you around, to have you present, to have your priorities once again focused on the family and the things that you committed to them and to the people that you brought into this world. And then this thing comes along that hijacks your time in a lot of ways, you know, and it is one of those necessary evils, I think, in some ways. You could call it that for lack of a better term, but that's what it feels like to family members. It's like, I understand why you're doing this, but it doesn't mean it doesn't suck. And those are tough conversations to have, especially with people early on, because for them, it's helping and they feel that it's helping them. And even the family members can acknowledge like it's helping, but we can also hold two thoughts at once and say like, yeah, it's helping, but this sucks. Like it doesn't, it's better, but it's not, you know, in that regard.
I think that's really important to acknowledge here is that we can have two thoughts at once.
Most
we can have
people
two
do.
feelings at once. But we're so wired or conditioned to think in, you know, black and white, thinking it's one or the other, instead of like, you know what, I'm grateful that you're working on yourself, but also I'm feeling a little, you know, alone. I'm feeling like you're taking time away from the family and from myself and from us to actually like communicate and be there for each other, like what we want a relationship to be. And I think that it's important to be able to have both of those thoughts and be okay with having both of those thoughts. I'm giving you permission to have those thoughts, you know, instead of like, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah. What sucks is whenever your spouse who's in recovery isn't on board with that same idea, because what I know that a lot of people do, and I think I probably did to some degree too, was like insist that like, no, we have to both be on board with all of this 100%. You got to be as enthusiastic as me on this. I need your support. And it's really difficult because this isn't what spouses signed up for, you know, which once again, two thoughts at once, which doesn't mean that they're not willing to walk through it with you. But this was certainly nothing that they saw as part of their lives. You know, whenever you guys were planning life, what that would look like together, this was not part of the deal. And so I think you have to give them a lot of patience and time and understand where those feelings are coming from. My guess is that they're still going to be okay with it, but you need to hold space for them just to process through that. Most people come to the place where they're like, it sucks, but it's a good thing. And overall, if we're going to weigh these two things, it's more of a good thing than a bad thing. But we can still acknowledge these feelings at times, especially early on when those priorities get flipped so quickly on their head. You know, I think when someone goes into treatment, both of you are thinking is, I cannot wait to get back to normal. There will never be normal again. It's never going to be the way it was. And that's actually probably for the best. I know that's a hard thing to hear, but it probably is, because that same relationship's the one that got us here. So it was probably built on some false pretenses and some false stories. It wasn't all bad, but no doubt there was some stuff in there that wasn't working well, or we wouldn't be here. So it will never be the way it was. And there's a grieving period that comes with that. And that's totally normal and rational. And it's tough as a spouse. Like, if I wish both people would listen to the show, but very rarely they do. Usually it's the woman in the relationship who's listening to the show, like, because they.
I don't know. I think we have a lot of couples who do listen to the show.
Well, if there are, for those of you that are
considering
out there,
the rocks, you know.
Yeah, that's true. We sell a lot of rocks.
We
It's
sell
awesome.
more rocks than anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But for those of you that do, like, understand that your spouse can have both those feelings at once. Like, give them credit. Like, they're not dumb, but it feels amazing for someone to hold space for you and all that. Like, at the end of the day, they're going to support you, like kicking and screaming or not. They're going to support you in this deal. But it means the world just to be seen and acknowledged. And then generally when you do that, when you validate people, is when they begin to walk forward. People can carry a whole lot of pain, but usually when you let them know, like, it's okay to carry that pain, they're still going to walk with you. You just have to give them that chance. But if you're hesitant to it and you try to deny it and you don't let them hold those feelings and you try to justify and defend it and you try to rationalize it or minimize it, it's going to be a problem. It'll keep coming up, because it's not that you're wrong necessarily. It's just that they're not going to feel seen. And damn it, people like to feel seen.
Well, there are people in recovery who will just say, hey, let's move forward. Let's not look at the past.
That's probably the most common way that people go about this.
Right. Which we've talked about, you know, the weaponizing of forgiveness or whatnot, where the past is in the past, but you still have to acknowledge the past and hold space for somebody who that was their life too. You know, just because you're starting to get better doesn't mean that things just automatically get better. Things are going to come up. Things are going to resurface. Sometimes that stuff doesn't come out for a few years. I would love to do an episode on the timing of recovery and I feel like whenever you start recovery, you're starting from scratch. Like, you're a newborn. This is your birthday. And looking at recovery time in human years, like the first year, you're still an infant, you're still a baby, you're still young, you're still learning things. It's really performative, at that point. It's not really like deep stuff. Again, I'll get into this at some other point, but in between years like 3 and 5 is pretty fragile because things are really starting to come to light. You're really recognizing the consequences of, what addiction did within your relationship. A lot of the times you don't recognize that in the beginning. The spouse does because most of the time they were, sober or rational. They were front and center. They were in the front of all of it. And they deserve a voice within that relationship and what has been done. You don't get to just say, oh, the past is in the past. Let's move forward. I'm optimistic about the future. You can be optimistic about the future and also discuss the past and validate it and discuss and like get through it. You can still have those feelings. We have this thing of like, don't make them feel shame or whatnot. I can't necessarily make you feel shame. Of course, the way I deliver something to you or the way I communicate something is important by not shaming you, but the way that you feel shame is really up to you and how you handle that. That's not, my thing. Just have a conversation. Just talk about it.
Do with the story I tell myself about myself.
Right. But you can feel shame, but also feel hopeful for the future. We just have this thinking of like, oh, if I go down that path, that means it's going to stall my recovery. It's going to stunt my growth. It's going to like make me spiral backwards. And I just don't think that's healthy for the spouse. I don't think that's healthy for either one of you. I think it's just like, have conversations. It's important to have 2 thoughts at once. Like I can acknowledge the past and I can do better going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I don't have it in front of me, the research. This is anecdotal, obviously, just based on the way that I grew up. Boys and girls solve problems differently, disputes within relationships. Like a group of boys, whenever we have a dispute, you could get in a fist fight. Like I literally got in fist fights with my friends in high school. And that evening, it's like, let's just forget about it. And then you hug it out and we're still best friends to this day, 20 years later. And that's how boys solve problems. It's how we're taught to solve problems.
Well,
like,
the sports teaches you that.
Yeah, just
think
let
about
that shit go. Like they will scream at you, get in your face and like MF you and all kinds of stuff. Like two inches from your face, grabbing your face mask. And you're taught to just like, let that shit go. Like it doesn't mean I love you any less, just let it go. And I think that we carry that into marriage without understanding that girls and boys process problems differently a lot of the time. And it takes a bit more of a degree of understanding for a lot of women to make sense of these sorts of things. We're different sorts of creatures, Mm-hmm. Women tend to be more emotional. They're more interested in people. Boys are more interested in things. We are different. For everyone says that we're not, we are. Nothing wrong with that. I think that we're better together. I always will believe that. And I've benefited a ton from marriage and relationships. And I love relationships. It's my favorite thing in the world to talk about and to study. I just think that we look at the way, like, just look at the stats alone. Like most people who suffer from substance use disorder are males, about 3 out of 4 people who do. And that means on the other side of that, generally, we're going to get women who are dealing with the other side of this. The recovery world oftentimes is heavily lean male as well. And so what are we going to insist that we do whenever we get sober? Just forget about that shit.
Yeah.
Let's just move forward. Like, just let it go.
Oh man, that's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Put it in that perspective.
And
that's what we're trying to do here is find that middle ground. Like we're trying to get away from that of just like, let's meet with each other instead of doing it like this is the man's way of handling things. Like, let's find the middle ground.
Don't get me wrong. Like if we're talking about like which one is simpler, like it's super simple to be like, yo, are we good? We're good, right? Let's just move forward. But this is over small stuff, right? Like a little dust up in the parking lot over something stupid after a hockey game is not the same thing as lying to your wife or betraying her for a decade. Spending your family's finances, putting them in danger. This stuff requires a bit more of a conversation than like, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Let's hug it out and let's move on. There are some couples that do this, and I think that churches have something to be said about this too. A lot of times I've seen couples that go into like church remediation where they're talking with a pastor or somebody, and the insistence is that he's the leader of this family. You got to let this stuff go if you two are going to move forward. And that's not for everyone. I hope that people have had different experiences in that. That's one I hear about a lot. Once again, anecdotal, my experience here, but it pops up a lot where it's oftentimes, it's just insisted that we just diminish this and let's just move forward. Let's focus on the future, which isn't the worst idea in the world because there are some things that you are never going to be able to change, know enough about them, know all the whys in the entire world. But I think from my perspective, it's super important to help you reconstruct your narrative with as much truth and honesty as possible.
Yeah. I mean, because we have to learn how to trust ourselves again. Like that's the whole purpose of any of this. And if you're still telling us, put the past in the past or whatnot, that's almost just like continuing the betrayal process because you're not allowing us to have those feelings of whatever it is that we're feeling based on our experience. So I just think there's a really decent way to bring it in the middle to where it's like, okay, yeah, the past is in the past, but how are we going to move forward? And that's okay. Let's still discuss it and allow space for you to process and feel how you need to feel.
Yeah.
If you become defensive because of it, it's going to make us feel even more guilty, or it's going to, it's like, you're not allowing us to feel how we need to feel, but we always allow you to feel how you need to feel. So
it's a one-way street, ain't it?
Yeah. So another way of that we feel anger is a delayed betrayal awareness. So a lot of the times when you're in it, you can't name the betrayal. You don't know really what's going on because you're still kind of like in survival mode. Like I said, you're just trying to like just get through the day. And we also don't want to call it betrayal. Like it took me a long time to call it betrayal. The fact that he lied to me for a long period of time, like I didn't accept that for years after sobriety. While we were in it, there's no way that I could have seen it for what it was. It wasn't ready, or I just couldn't, I don't think my body was going to allow me to do that. But like we said, sometimes the clarity just comes later. And again, it can be sometimes years later. And then once you name it and you recognize, oh, well, damn, that's really what's been happening, that anger might get worse because then you're really looking at the past of like, Matt, I think recently you discussed an experience during Christmas where you took our daughter to a drug dealer's house. And then you said that going to your mom's house was like a front. You really didn't care to go there. You just wanted to go get drugs. That didn't come out for a while, I don't think. I don't remember when you first admitted to me that happened.
I talked about that the first time I did amends, I believe.
Was it? Okay. I guess because it was so fresh and so new. But whenever he did his amends, I was just like, all right, cool, whatever, let's move on. But deep down, I was like kind of angry about that. And then I would suppress it. I would just be like, all right, that's in the past. Let's move on. But again, it came out years later and I would still hear it. And I'm just like, wow, like you really did a good job at lying to me. Like our relationship was almost not real at that point, like it was, my reality was completely distorted.
There's something to be said too about let's just talk about like with our family anyway. Whenever I was getting clean and sober and we were rebuilding, we were also parents to young kids, and that's what your life revolves around. And so you're moving from crisis to crisis on any given day, and you're focusing on keeping them alive and keeping them fed and happy and clean and all that stuff. And you just don't have a ton of time to sit there and reflect on this kind of stuff. You just don't. Like your bandwidth is so full of children and what they need, and there's not a whole lot of time for each other. And this is in a normal relationship when you have little kids, much less one that's been through something like this. And so it takes a while. I was reading some notes before this, just looking at some of the psychology and what's been written about betrayal trauma. Jennifer Freyd's a psychologist, and she's got this really interesting idea, this insight. She says, anytime there's been betrayal trauma and you're involved in these crises and then you're trying to move on with your life, what happens in order to preserve the relationship itself, the brain may block awareness of the betrayal. And she calls this betrayal blindness. So survivors may misidentify or deny their feelings early on because acknowledging them could lead to losing the relationship. And so this kind of creates this strange protective pink cloud where the relationship seems better and negative feelings are suppressed. And this feels very familiar as I'm reading this to a lot of what we were going through.
Absolutely.
You block this stuff out because if you really face it, you're going to have to really look and make some really tough decisions about the future of that relationship if you really stare at it for long enough. And your brain in some ways is protecting you from doing that. And so it just kind of blocks it out. This doesn't last forever, though. It's a pink cloud, which is like a phase. And at some point, it will come out. We've talked about this and stand by it all day long. This will come out eventually one day. I know couples that have worked through this before with decade plus recovery, strength of marriage. And several years in, one of them is like, I want a divorce. It's like, wait, like this is like years after recovery, like upwards of 10 years. And like, that's at the point where they came to terms with everything. And it's like, I can't, man. I've been trying to fake it till I make it. I've been trying to get better. I'm trying to work on myself, but like, I'm broken. I can't fucking do this. And that'll be the end of it. And it'll blindside you. I've seen this happen to many people in recovery.
Yeah.
But I don't want to scare anyone and be like, you're not out of the woods. Like, haha. It's nothing like that. It's just be aware of it. I think what I would suspect is that the sooner you start to have these sorts of conversations and hold space for one another, probably the better. Because I bet it's a really lonely feeling as like if you, like the woman going through this and recognizing and feeling all this stuff, also feeling guilty and bringing it up because it's been so long. Am I being nagging? Am I just holding on too tight? Am I being too sensitive or too emotional about this? And then watching me be like happy-go-lucky. And then it's like you're watching your abuser in many cases, like move on with their life and you're dealing with all this stuff. And there's never really been space to talk about it.
Yeah.
So how do you bring it up? Do I just say it now? Like what kind of fucking conversation would that be? And so a lot of people just hold it and they just sit with it until it just erupts out of them.
Yeah.
So start to have these combos with each other sooner, I would say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if you need guidance on that, like there's therapy, there's all kinds of ways to get about this.
Right. And we'll discuss a little bit about that in this episode on ways to approach the topic and how to have conversations about it. I feel like we could do like an entire workshop on just communicating in recovery, like what to do, what not to do. I'd love to do like a role playing with you and how, not to do it and how to do it and how it like really
where did we do
helpful.
that recently?
We did it on a TikTok live. I thought it was great. I'm just like, let's do this. Let's role play. And I think that we nailed it in a way. It was about triggers, because triggers are going to come up within your relationships, even years after. And like Matt said, this isn't to scare people, right? This isn't to like, let you know, like, oh, shit's going to suck, it's just based on experience. And what we want to do is help people, like he said, acknowledge it sooner and have these conversations in healthy ways, because you have to rebuild your relationship. Again, it's okay to be done too, like at some point. But I think that our goal has been recover separately, but together, have conversations about what you're both going through in a healthy way. So did you want to say anything else about betrayal, or do you want me to go on to the next thing?
Roll it.
Okay. The next thing you might be angry about, and I've brought this up just a little bit, is just the emotional debt that you feel. So like years of holding everything together. Whenever things start to calm down a little bit, you're like, oh my God, I actually held so much shit together all by myself. I was doing so much without any help. That's going to make anybody feel angry, especially when they start to, really take care of themselves. You might look at it as like you said, wow, they're doing so well. And look at me, I'm just not doing great, because you're recognizing the things that you've done within the active addiction period of your life. Whenever you were protecting the kids, you were managing the fallout, you actually suppressed your emotions. You were staying quiet because you knew that any time that you would bring something up, it would not be resolved. That's going to come out eventually. The anger at this point is going to tell you that you carried like too much alone, and you're going to feel lonely, and you're going to feel that anger just really come up because of the things that you went through during that time period. And I think a lot of people recognize this earlier in recovery than I did personally. I didn't recognize that until later on. Like I said, I was just very, we had the little kids, we were doing that. Life was moving on. I was trying to move on from that too. But then the anger just came out later on.
You remember like getting mad at yourself for feeling really guilty for feeling this way whenever things were going really well?
Absolutely. I remember, when I started, we're actually about to get into my experience. So when I started feeling anger years after sobriety, and you were doing everything right, you were becoming a better parent. You were taking care of yourself. You were being honest. You were, showing up more. Like, why am I angry? I feel really guilty about this. I feel guilty about bringing this up, or I feel guilty for feeling this way in general, because I'm like, why? Why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense. And feeling guilty was like, okay, well, if he can move on, I should be able to move on too. But the reality is that I didn't deal with the wounds. I didn't work on myself. I didn't figure out where these emotions were coming from. I didn't have these conversations with you either, because honestly, I didn't know why I was so angry. I just knew I was angry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like, it's strange to look at two different, it's like, I mean, you kind of break things up I think we look at our lives too as like there was before all this and then after all this. But in the beginning, it doesn't really feel that way because you don't have enough time after the fact to really separate the two. So in the beginning, it's strange because you're looking at your person and they're doing so well. And you're like, like things are great. Like you don't have that line in the sand to really say there was before and after. Once there's been enough time to look forward and you see what they were capable of all along and everything that you, I guess that you allowed in some ways, you know? And I don't mean to say that abused people are like, we're not victim blaming here, but I'm saying like after
not allowed or tolerated. It's just like, what you were living in.
Seeing all this stuff and seeing where now after the fact where you got more clarity and distance, where you could have held boundaries, you would have done things differently. And so you get upset with yourself, you get upset with them, and like it comes out. And it's really tough to look at all that and to sit there with it and be proud of that situation, the way it unfolded. Like, why the hell do we have to, this is part of our lives. And it's so much more comfortable just to live in the now, the future, the present, because it's better than looking back. But the past tells the whole story, you know, and without recognizing the past, without acknowledging the past, and without honoring the past, like, there's a reason we study history in school. You are doomed to repeat it at some point, you know. In recovery, rent is due every day. I think that in betrayal, trauma, and marriage recovery, it's due every day as well. There's going to be some discussion about this at some point during every day that we have. It's not just because of the show. It could be a comment. Sometimes it's something funny, but this is acknowledgement of like what used to be. And I think it's important that you do that. In the beginning, no one really does that because it's such a taboo topic. You walk on eggshells around it. You don't want to really discuss it, but it's really tough to sit there and watch somebody like you're doing so well. And it's like, but I don't feel the greatest about all this still. And I can't really tell why, you know, because you just don't have enough time on the other side of it.
Exactly.
To really separate the two.
Yeah, right. And then whenever I was angry, like the way it came out was just awful. I would wake up mad at the world, just angry at the world.
It always blew my mind.
And
how
I
you
didn't know why. I know. And that was another reason for me to feel guilty, because you would always say something along the lines of like, you have nothing to be angry about. What are you angry about? Like, why are you waking up angry? And I would make people walk on eggshells. I was very miserable to be around, you know? And I was like, I don't know why I'm angry. And I could not figure it out. I just knew that it was coming out in ways that made me very uncomfortable. I was overwhelmed. I was like when I said I would wake up, I would just like slam stuff around, or I was just not fun to be around. I was miserable. I was a pain in the ass. I'm like, there's no reason for me to be angry. And this was delayed anger is pretty much like what it's called. So that is what forced me.
They call it delayed onset PTSD.
Yeah.
Depending on the severity of your situation.
Right. So that's when I started working on myself. So that's when I knew, okay, something has to change, because Matt was like, if you don't get your shit together, then he set a boundary. Like, if you don't get this together, if you don't go get help, then, you know, I'm going to take the kids and run, basically.
Really difficult conversation to have after what I'd done. But this is... It
was necessary.
Many years after the fact. And like, this is... You know, I can only imagine what it was like watching me around our kids when I was going through what I was going through, and how scary that must feel. And you want to protect your children. On the other side of it, when you know that you've broken this person to the point where they're doing the same kinds of stuff, where you're not caring for yourself, you haven't dealt with this anger and this resentment and, you know, this depression, anxiety, all this stuff. And it's really, really tough to look at them and be like, this is actually not a healthy situation for me or for our children. Like, we're going to have a conversation around this. Like, you get help or else.
You didn't know then, though,
the cause of this.
No, you didn't know. Neither did I.
I suspected that I had something to do with it, but I wasn't sure to what degree.
We didn't know. But this is why it's so important for us to work on ourselves, because it does come out in ways that are extremely uncomfortable. And that was my sign, like, to go to therapy. I became medicated for a short period of time. I started working on all of my self-care stuff. This is when I was like, all right, I'm going to do better. I'm going to get better. I'm going to, you know, work on some things. And obviously, and then it took like even some more time for us to even unravel that a lot of it had to do with being betrayed and lied to for a long period of time. When we talk about betrayal, we're not talking about infidelity. We're talking about just the lies, because that
could be infidelity.
It could be obvious. Yes, it can be infidelity. It's just not that.
There's also
only that.
I know a lot of guys are probably, if anyone's watching, they're probably like kicking the freaking coffee table right now. Like, what about her? What? Listen, people also show up in life in relationships not 100%. Everyone's got something. Everyone has something, you know, but I think what's important to recognize is that, like, I've talked to more guys that I can possibly count, and all they want to do is bitch about what their wife's talking about. You know, she's nagging, she's controlling, she's this, she's that, and she's always been this way and everything else. I'm like, you know, we all show up to relationships with different degrees of quote unquote perfection. No one's perfect though. No one gets there. We're oftentimes very short of that mark. What's important to recognize, I think, is that, yeah, sure, they show up. No one shows up perfect. But your part and where things are right now is not 0%. It's not 0%. So I know that I had compounded a lot of that stuff that was already there. Paige was anxious before we ever met. You know, call it anxiety or whatever else. We were, you know, used to be scared of storms and a bunch of other things. And
correct.
A lot of stuff that people struggle with. Generalized anxiety disorder is going to be compounded by this stuff. I think it's important to recognize that. And if you can recognize that, then oftentimes you can quit the scoreboard game that a lot of people play. Mm-hmm. A lot of people play the scoreboard game. Will you do this? Will you do that? Will you just, it doesn't fucking matter. If you've got a part in it, you got a part in it. You got to own it.
I think that the lies do a lot of damage too, though. You know, like if you think about, I didn't lie to you, you know, within our relationship. Like you did a lot more of the damage than what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course I brought some shit. I mean, we all had some like anxiety. I had some self-esteem issues or whatnot. But when it came down to it, just the fact that I had been lied and gaslit and all that stuff for a while, like really impacted how I showed up in our relationship and how I showed up as a mom and how I showed up. Because it really did affect me. And that's something that I've been trying to kind of articulate within our show and our social media platform and all those things, is that the lies, guys, the lies really, really do affect a person. And it really does make them into somebody that they don't recognize anymore. So, and if you're an addict, an alcoholic, you're a liar. I mean, that's just the fact of it. Like you lie. There are lies. And
fight me on that.
Yeah. And it impacts this is your most important, you know, relationship. You spend more time with each other throughout your entire life than you do anybody else in your life, more than your children, more than your parents, more than anybody, your spouse. So if you're lying to them continuously, it's going to definitely have an effect on them going forward and the way that they show up.
Yep.
But yes, I did have some shit that I brought to the relationship. No doubt about it.
We all do.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was going to say. I had something on the tip of my tongue. I'm sorry.
He'll come back. I would just like to know more about how you, unless you want to get to this in a little bit, how you got to the place where you're finally okay with it all. Or are you like fully okay with it?
Like finally okay with the past?
Because I think about, you know, it's a pretty depressing tale to be like, this is coming to get you. It's like the boogeyman hiding under your bed and it's going to come haunt you guys, even though you think you're happy now. But like on the hopeful side of this, like it can be dealt with and managed, and you can live. I think once you truly, if you can get through this and accept each other for all of this, there is no stronger relationship.
Yes, but you played the majority of the part in that, meaning that you acknowledged what you did. You became honest. You were open to having conversations with me about it. You weren't defensive about it. You showed up it was like changing behaviors or whatnot. It took a lot of years to accept it though. I think I went through like a grieving process. You know, there's anger, there's sadness. There definitely was some sadness with the things that happened in the past. And now I'm at the acceptance phase of just, this is what happened, but it no longer happens. It hasn't happened in a long, long time. You've definitely changed your behaviors. The patterns are different. You show up, and that's what helped me rewire my brain and my experiences, was because you'd been consistent over time to where it's like, okay, that's no longer where we are anymore.
I can say this though. I think you're right that it's the person who caused the harm. It's your job to take the lead in repair. But there is such a thing as you doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, showing accountability, working some kind of a process, whatever that might be, holding space for them, you know, stop the lying, be a better parent. And it's still totaled.
And that's okay.
You can hold someone hostage for long enough in a relationship when things were so bad that it will never be good again. And you will never be the same again. You'll be happier in another relationship than that one. Put it that way.
Right. No, it got to a point like, again, we were 26, 27, 27, 26. I always mess this up because it was right before your birthday. We were young. And yeah, there were some really bad things that happened. And it's not to compare or anything like that. This is just my pain tolerance was you didn't go too far for too long. You know what I mean? Like
that line will look different for everyone, but it does exist.
It does. And there is a line. I was still able and willing to accept, move forward, rebuild, have conversations, still be in the relationship, acknowledge what has happened. But it's a process. It's not like I just wake up and say, okay, this is how it is. Everything's going to be okay. Let's just move forward. It was more of just like, what are we going to do to get through it? Here's the process. It's going to take years. It's totally okay. But it was having those open conversations and discussing it and just moving through it.
Having
not moving over it, but moving through it. Yeah. And having someone safe to talk to about it. Not someone who's
like diminishing it all or talking shit back to you. Like, what else do you want from me? I'm finally doing it.
Right.
Shut up.
Right.
That ain't going to be helpful.
No, it's not helpful.
They ain't a recipe for success.
Nope. Okay. So I want to talk about real quick what not to do with this anger.
Okay.
Can we?
Let's get into that.
Are we good? Okay. And I know this is hard, but this is where we discuss like the difference between anger and aggression. Sometimes we just want to, when we feel anger, we just want to like spill it out and let somebody know what it's about and what we're feeling or whatnot. So I don't think it's helpful to weaponize the past. So let's say you want to bring up something that happened in the past. Matt, what's a poor way of, or an unhealthy way of going about this that may not be productive for the relationship?
It's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. If you make someone else feel responsible 100% for the way that they're feeling, they're more than likely going to get defensive with you, right? We never had infidelity in our relationship, but I've worked with a lot of people who have. And oftentimes the way this comes out was, it can be anything, right? It can be seeing someone look in a restaurant toward another woman and you can think that, oh my God, there he goes again. And then you say something in that moment, like really angry because you're hurt, right? Like, this is why we are where we are, because you can't keep your eyes off of people. And it's like, oh, fuck, like that stung. Like that, yeah, that was meant to hurt somebody. And how productive is that going to be, right? Like, I know that you feel that way, but is that productive? Is that a mature way to handle this in that moment? This comes up in addiction too, things that you can say or do, a lot of the behaviors, a lot of these things that we develop, these patterns we develop in lying, or some of the ways that we act, if that's not being supportive, if it's sleeping too much, whatever it might be, if something reminds you of an old behavior, it's the way you say it and bring it up. Like we talked about this recently. We were on someone's show or something. We were talking about triggers. Maybe it was
one of our community meetings. Yes.
We're talking about triggers or something to that effect. And it was like, I don't remember the exact example that was used, but there's a lot of stuff that will come up. And I think it was like ATM alerts, because I used to get cash out all the time for drugs, and I would lie about where the cash was going, and I always had a justification for it. And it was a mess. And the first time I think that I was sober and I got money out of the ATM, I should have known better, but I should have called her and told her what I was going to be doing, because she would get an alert, and that was going to be really, probably strange in that moment to see that alert that, that was doomsday for her back in the day, to see that, and just her stomach would drop like, oh, here he goes again. Well, it came up, and the way she approached it was, hey, I'm not mad at you. I just wanted to let you know that when that alert came up, it reminded me of whenever you were using. And I know that you're doing great, and I'm so proud of you. But like when I saw that, man, my stomach just dropped. And I just felt empathy, and I just felt like sadness, and I felt responsibility and accountability for like, oh my God, you're right. I don't know why I didn't think about that. And I could have handled that so much better. I could have called you first and told you what I was going to be doing. I could have made you feel safer about this rather than getting surprised by it. And I think that's just one of a million ways that you can show up differently whenever you're upset or angry without getting aggressive.
Sometimes we would laugh about things too, though.
Laughing.
Like we would bring things up as a joke, and like, oh, it reminds me of this time that you did this and that, just kind of like lightening it up, which I know that sounds really weird, because you're like, why are you laughing, or why are you using humor in a very serious, situation? But that was part of our relationship, and that's just how we would cope with things and deal with things and discuss things. And sometimes
humor's great to cope.
It is great. And I don't think, I mean, obviously if you use it as a way to distract, that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, weaponizing the past can be like, listen, there's a time and a place to talk about the past. There's a time and a place and a right way and a wrong way to talk about how you are harmed by something. Listen, if you're developing zingers, like just nasty shit to say to somebody, how do you think that's going to be received? And like, I understand that they are responsible for that, but how is that going to be received? And what kind of problem are we trying to solve here? Like, how would you feel if your boss or someone in your office approached you with something like this and brought it up that way? How would you feel? You would feel 2 inches tall. You would feel like you don't matter. You would feel like nothing that you ever do to try to repair this is going to make a difference. And at some point, you're going to lose the want and desire to do so. Because if you keep getting your shit, face rubbed in shit, but I think there's a healthy way to rub someone's face in shit is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. It was like, let me bring this up, and you have to trust that they're going to take that seriously. If they're not, that's a sign.
Then that's a red flag.
Red flag, dude.
It's a red flag. It's how they take it. If you can say it in the most calm way, and if you can spouses, you guys, you're very, very aware. It's just, we have to be honest with ourselves. I think that's the thing that we kind of get away from, because being honest with ourselves means that we have to take action and do something about it. But if you bring something to their attention that happened in the past in a kind way, or just discussing it and they get really defensive, or they're just like, let's move forward. How dare you bring that up? All the things, your internal signal is going to come off and be like, ooh, something's not right here. Like, I want a relationship where I can bring something up without them getting super defensive. Now, they can get defensive. That's okay. Sometimes, like, in a way, we naturally as humans, we do get defensive, but it's what they do with afterwards. How are they going to repair it? How are they going to show up? How are they going to change their behavior? But if they're like really pushing back, then it's kind of a red flag. Mm-hmm. That means that they may not be willing to acknowledge the past or ready at this moment. But what you bring up is acceptable, and it should be acknowledged at some point.
Yeah, if you're just going to keep bringing up the most painful thing you both have been through, just with the intent that you're trying to hurt someone because you're hurt, I think that is a red flag for contempt in that relationship. And I don't think you come back from contempt. We've talked about this. I really don't, because that is a complete loss of respect at that point.
Yeah, I feel like Matt and I talk a lot of the stuff that we've done in the past and how it's like, yeah, that's really shitty behavior. But I don't feel like we ever got past that point of gone over that line of having like not mutual respect for each other, of like, I never really felt like I wanted to hurt you just because you hurt me. It's not in my nature.
It happens though. Like,
but I
do
understand that you will eventually get to that point. And if you do get to that point, then obviously, that's a red flag within yourself to like, something does need to change. And that's going to be really, really hard to come back from.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about real quick how spouses can like move through this anger, because like we've talked about it before, we don't want to suppress our emotions. We don't want to get rid of it. We don't want to just like shrug it under the rug. Like, it's got to be dealt with, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be put out there. We learn from anger. Okay. Sometimes we're like, okay, I don't want to go through that again. Sometimes that anger in recovery, while they're in recovery, is telling you, you know what, I don't want to do that again. I don't want, and I've being this far out of it, I will not go back into that situation. There's no, I can't. That's where that anger is like, I'm not going to let you do that to me again. And then you have to learn how to separate what happened then from what's happening now. And I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to do, because like we've talked about in recovery, it's like a train, it stops, but then it just continues to pile up.
Pulling something heavy on wheels. Yeah. Just because you stop pulling it doesn't mean it'll stop rolling, right?
Right.
It's got its own momentum. It'll keep rolling over you for quite some time.
Yeah. So you can look at what happened in the past, but also look at what's happening now. Again, two thoughts at once. Like, you can see and acknowledge what happened, but then acknowledge and see what's happening right now, and then allow your anger to kind of look at it. Like I said, I had a right to be angry, but it was delayed anger, but I didn't want to allow it to consume me. So there were times when I would wake up in the morning as I was working on myself and doing all the things. I had to force myself to shift my perspective to say happiness is a choice right now, because the way that my life is not, it's not like it used to be. Like, I didn't have reason to be angry in that moment. So I had to choose to not be angry and acknowledge that. Like, I'm like, okay, that helped me so much. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember
when
that.
I would go through that.
We
It was
were
hard.
having long conversations about that one.
Yeah, we did have a lot of conversations about it. And it was helpful for me because I'm like, there's no reason for me to be angry about this stuff right now. Like, I need to separate it a little bit.
Yeah, safety's been achieved. Like, we're back in a good place. And so you're looking at choices at this point. It's like, I'm angry and I can examine why I'm angry, and I can look at the reasons I could also be happy. And you recognize like, oh shit, maybe I have a little bit of more choice in this matter than I really thought. If there's a lot of unresolved stuff, as this stuff is still happening, I would not suggest this strategy for choosing happiness. But there comes a point where it's like, everything in my life is good right now. Like, gratitude journals are an amazing thing. If you're not familiar with those, like, I still use these things on my worst days, where it's like, this is what my life really is. And you look at the negatives and it's like, everything I'm upset about transpired quite some time ago, and there's nothing I can do to change it. I have accepted it. I think it's a process, though, that takes quite some time of reconsolidating your memory and the story that you tell yourself about everything. And they can get really heavy at times. Sometimes you just fall in this default mode of anger.
Well, I think that this is important to do, not like super early recovery, because we still are going to be on guard. We're going to be on guard.
This is not guys, what I just talked about is a years out plan.
Yes.
Like, this is, think 1+ years out, not a month.
Nope.
2 months. Nope. I see a lot of messages like in the community and whatnot. It's like, all right, he's been out for 3 weeks. Let's get going with this stuff. It's like, dude,
again, still a baby.
He's a baby. Like, brand new recovery is not going to be able to really understand this to the depth that we're talking about it right here. It doesn't mean you can't be starting to have conversations about it. You should be, but I don't know. You're not going to get a resolution at a month, 3 months, 6 months. You're just not.
I think it's important you can have hope, but also be on guard. You know, like, you can
cautious optimism.
Right. Yeah. You can do two things at once. I'm not going to encourage you to just look at the positive things. I think they're important, but also sometimes that can cloud our judgment of what could happen. And we need to be prepared for that as well. You know, it's kind of like just doing all this stuff at once where we think that, oh, we just need to stay positive and everything will be okay. Your body's not going to let that happen, because eventually it'll come out, or maybe they relapse or something, you know, but this is why it's also important for you to work on yourself.
Yeah, this is, I mean, we don't talk about spirituality a hell of a lot here. And I don't mean religion necessarily. I mean just living by your deepest meaning values and figuring out what that is for you, and choosing to live by those every day with intention can be a massive way to overcome some of the stuff in the immediate that I feel really angry right now. And have no real reason at this point to be angry. Like, I talked to a friend who, you know, years and years out in recovery, like, his wife wanted the relationship to work, but she also wanted to be pissed every day. And the therapist, and I credit them for saying it, like, you have a choice at this point. You can either divorce him or forgive him. You can't have it both ways. You can't want, like, you have all these wants, and they're not congruent, right? These are dichotomous. One of them has to go and one of them has to stay. And you get to make that choice. I'm not telling you what the choice should be for you, but you do have to make a choice here, because you can't keep doing this, right? This cycle, this anger, this reconciliation, this pink cloud, anger, reconciliation, pink cloud. You can't keep doing this over and over and over and expect to really move forward. Like, it's like that old saying, like, you can't walk in a circle and call it a journey. It wasn't a journey. You got back to where you started, right? Journey implies that you're heading somewhere. You're not going back to where you started. And so, yeah, there is something to that.
Yeah. And I think at that point, whenever it's been years later and you're still angry and then you're told to let go, I think that you subconsciously know that if they do relapse or go back into behavior that you once did not, that you don't want back in your life, you're going to know what to do. You're no longer waiting for the shoe to drop, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you still want to be prepared, and it's like you let go of any possibility, but then you're like, okay, I'm in a safe place now. I know that I need to let go of whatever I've been holding on to, and know that if it happens again, I'm going to move forward and not go back into that again, because you have more clarity at that point.
You have the right to change your mind. Like, reserve that.
Absolutely.
But new information comes to light.
but it helps you not to like constantly be holding on to like, oh, the shoe's going to drop. You know, I'm so scared that things are going to go back. I'm so mad. I'm so angry. You know, if this happens again, I'm going to be really pissed. If you have a plan, if you're like, no, you know what, I'm going to let this go for now. And then if they F up again, I'm done. Then it's easier for you to just let it go and move forward.
Yeah.
Not necessarily let it go, but you kind of just let go of that anticipating bad things to happen again.
And I do suspect that relationships are far more resilient than I think popular culture and social media would have you think. I think we look at the rates of divorce and the videos that go sensational, viral, and everything else over like these divorces. I see this stuff all the time on our algorithm, like people who are leaving relationships for seemingly nothing. I think those are still on the tail end of a bell curve. Those are outliers. What I see typically, the vast majority of relationships are people who are willing to walk through some pain. And they're willing to sit with quite a bit of pain. And I wish things wouldn't have unfolded that way, but we're going to walk through it anyway. Like we made a commitment to one another. That's what I want to do. I find that more often than not. And so the reason I'm saying this is kind of prefacing what I'm going to get to next, which is that I know for a lot of men, it's really difficult to talk about this stuff and hold space and be accountable because they fear that in doing so, they're essentially signing their death certificate. It's like, if I talk to you about this stuff and what was going through my mind, it's just going to give you all the ammunition that you would need to leave me and to file and to get sole custody of the kids and all this stuff. And yeah, depending on what it is, I think that there could be a real fear for that, right? If you've been extremely abusive, if you've got like another family somewhere, if there's a lot of betrayal, like cheating, you know, that kind of stuff, like maybe that doesn't come back from that, right? But I think for some of the more typical stuff, like we're talking about, lying, drug use, alcohol use, lying about your whereabouts and things like that. Like that's stuff typically that relationships can get to the other side of.
Yeah, but I feel like if you are holding back from taking accountability because you're afraid of what could happen within your relationship, I feel like that's another form of betrayal and manipulation.
Well, it's lying by omission at best.
Yeah. So you need to allow your other people to have their feelings around whatever it is that they feel.
I agree. And then my philosophy on this, and other people may disagree, was that come forward with everything and talk to your spouse about everything and let them be an adult and make decisions that are best for them. Let the cards fall as they may, however that works. Now, again,
we didn't talk about everything in the beginning because we didn't know about everything in the beginning. It wasn't until later on that we actually started to discuss things in more depth about things that happened.
No, we talked about events, but not the fallout of those things.
Of what happened and how it affected me and our relationship in general. But I do think that a form of just saying the past is in the past and they're scared of saying anything because of what their spouse may do. That's not giving them autonomy. You know, that's not giving them the right to make decisions that are best for them. And any healthy relationship, you allow the other person to feel however they need to feel, to push forward or whatever it is they need to do. Just like when you got sober, it was like, okay, if she leaves and it is what it is, like you wouldn't want me to, but you're not going to hold back anything just because you want me to stick around. Like that's manipulative.
No, if we were going to rebuild it, I wanted to make sure that it was rebuilt on something real.
Honesty.
And it's like,
yeah.
if she sticks with me through this, it will be because she knows all these things and still decided that it was worth it. And that will be something that we can both like spend the rest of our lives knowing is real.
Yeah.
And it won't be performative and it won't be selective memory or any of that stuff. And maybe it's a privileged take because we haven't been through a lot of the like intimacy betrayal that a lot of people have. I've been upfront, and so have you. Like, I don't think I could get through that.
No, I don't.
I've never been through it. But
that was one of our non-negotiables from the get-go. That's not something that I wouldn't go through that.
Couples do.
I know they do, and that's fine. Me personally, I couldn't get through that. I know that few years in time, I just don't think I could do that. I don't think you could either, because I felt like that would be the ultimate betrayal for me within our relationship.
And obviously that makes us not the experts on advice there.
No.
Maybe there's a different way of going about that.
Right.
Maybe that does
there
come
could
with
be
some
another
degree
podcast out there for y'all, but I don't.
Yeah, maybe that does come with some degree of like, you have to just let it go and just move forward and just focus on the net. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Check out Jake Porter's stuff, Dr. Jake Porter. He's got
for sure.
great info on it.
So if you are not starting to take care of yourself, even when they're in active addiction, like this stuff is going to come back out. There is no bypass to this. Whenever they get sober or in recovery, A lot of the stuff is revealed. And your healing cannot wait just because of their timeline. There's a lot of people who come and go from our community that their partner gets sober, they're in recovery, they leave the community because they feel as though they're good. Everything's great. We're done.
Graduated.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way. And this is not to even shame anyone or anyone. This is what you are going through. And I completely understand why you feel that way. But the point of what we do is for you. It's for your healing. It's for you to get through whatever it is that you are needing to get through. This is why we created a program, because remember, my anger and my issues did not start coming out until about 4 years after he got sober. So sobriety or not, doesn't matter. This is your experience. This is your story. You have things to heal from. So we have the Reclaiming You program. It used to be Independently Strong. We just switched it and rebranded it. I'm really excited about that. It's so pretty. I love the colors. But we help you get through all this stuff. We help you, get back into your values, set boundaries, communicate, take care of your mental, emotional, environmental, spiritual, physical selves, so that you can, start living a life that aligns with your values and who you want to be. And it helps you become authentic. And it doesn't matter where your partner is on their recovery journey. Like, you have some things to recover from as well, or this is going to continue to pop up and keep coming up. So we hold space for you. That is what we're here for. That is what our program is for. We offer the weekly community call on Wednesday evenings with me and or Matt, depending on what's going on in our lives. Sometimes we can't be there, and we'll hold just an open meeting for all of you to communicate with each other and help you feel less alone and get through whatever it is you're getting through, because we deserve space for us as well, because this is a very complicated life to navigate. So we help you through that. And this is why we created that, is because of the fact that my stuff didn't come out until later on. And we recognized that we have some healing to do as well, no matter where your partner is on their recovery journey. Even people who have been out of the relationship for a long time, we don't deal with the things that got us to, where we are. It's going to come out in other very uncomfortable ways, either in future relationships or with our children or with friends, family, whatever. It's really just personal development. We help you with some life skills.
Yeah.
And you can go to twfo.com to get you to that program.
Yeah. It'll help you reconsolidate all of this stuff, mindfulness techniques, spatial and social learning theory as well. Built it with a licensed therapist. It's legit. And it's, one of the number one things we hear from people is generally like, I don't know who I am anymore. It's values-based living, and it's learning how to find yourself again and what you really stand for, and how to surround yourself with people who are, listen, like at the end of the day, like you're either in it or you're out. When it comes to being in a relationship with someone, we generally latch onto them because we share similar values. Over time, those things kind of change. And as it turns out, when you're in a relationship with someone who's addicted, oftentimes your values take a backseat to whatever it is that they're going through. Their values come first, and they're usually not great ones. So you sacrifice so long that you kind of forget what you ever stood for in the first place. And our goal is to help you rediscover that. That's what Paige did. It was better for her. It was better for me. It's better for our marriage. It's better for our kids. We believe in this process. We really do. This is like our journey through it. Different than anything else that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of want to close it out and let you guys know that being angry in early recovery is not a bad thing. It's very, very normal. It's very common. It's just not discussed enough. And it doesn't mean that you're not grateful if your partner is getting help and becoming sober and in recovery and doing all the things. You can be grateful and also hold space for that anger as well. It's just recovering together, talking about it, having conversations, discuss what's going on, be involved in each other's recovery to some extent, allow them to do what they need to do, but also like, hey, let's talk about, what did you learn today? What can we do better? What are we feeling? That's going to really help you in your relationship and for yourself. Basically, the anger, it's what matters here. It's like, it's not that you're getting rid of it. It's how it's handled. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to deal with this? How are you going to cope with it? How are you going to manage it? How are you going to get through it? How are you going to discuss it and get it off your chest and not suppress it? Do not suppress your anger. It will come out in ways that you do not want it to come out. But just have conversations about it, let it out, and understand that the way that you're feeling is completely acceptable. And I get it. we all get it. And a lot of spouses who listen, they understand. People in the community, they understand. It's brought up all the time about anger and early recovery. I can sit here and warn you about it all day long, but you're not going to know until you actually get into it. There are times where people say, well, if my partner got sober, I'm going to be grateful. I'm not going to be angry anymore. Everything's going to be great. Cool. I think it's great that you have that hope, but from experience, your body and your mind are going to say something completely different. But if you are angry, that's okay. And if you're not, that's okay too.
Yeah. Once you finally achieve the thing you want, which is sobriety, peace in the home, and everything else, is when this stuff will generally pop up. Don't be surprised by it. It's a very normal part of this. I think this is incredibly rational. It's understandable why someone would do this. You don't have time to really reflect and think back on things until you do have peace in the home. And don't feel guilty for it, but don't hold it all in either. What I hope more than anything is that your partner who is in my position is giving you a space to talk about this kind of stuff, and they're not going to spiral, shame spiral every time you bring something up. And you get a healthy place to process that kind of stuff. If you don't, we've got a community for that. We've got our program. There are amazing therapists all over the world that are also willing to hold space for you in this. Hopefully your loved one gets to this place. I would posit that you are not going to be able to have a close relationship, any semblance to any degree of like what we have, and unless you have conversations like this long term. It's going to have to come up. I mean, that's what we do in relationships, right? You get to know someone. You love the kind of person they are, and you're so just genuinely interested in their experience in the world. Like to this day, 25 years later, I feel like I'm still touching on parts of you that I'm still discovering. Like, wow, I didn't know that existed. Tell me more. I want to know more about that. And sometimes that means that we're going to be talking about things that I had done, lessons that she had, really tough lessons she had learned because of me and because of the way that I was. And you have to be able to separate yourself from that lesson that they learned. If they had that big of a problem, they wouldn't be standing in front of you talking about it. So save me this shame shit. Like, they're there. Okay. Hold space for them. Let them talk. Let them say what they need to say. And you will be okay. Like, it will not kill you to hear what you were like. In fact, I think it's a good thing for your recovery. For as much as we want to fucking baby people and make sure that they're not feeling anything uncomfortable, like, it's important that you do feel a little uncomfortable. Like, God forbid you have one more tool in your toolbox that's going to prevent you from being that person again. Good old shame does serve a purpose in that regard. I don't want to be that dude again, man. I don't want to be him. And I'm going to run as far away from him as possible. It's like the lab rat thing, right? The Jordan Peterson thing with the cheese. Like, we have to be running away from something just as hard as we're running towards something new. That's the lesson in that, is I'm running away from that as hard and as fast as I possibly can. And that's her talking to me about all this stuff. And that's the shame that comes with it. And we're running towards something amazing. I'm running toward that. And you cannot do one without the other. You can't just avoid the back half of this thing. Let's just look forward. Let's just look forward. It's going to be better. It's going to be better. Better than what? What's it better than? We haven't even discussed it, right? Haven't got a chance to say my piece here. Justice requires that the betrayed partner sets the terms for reentry in a relationship. And that is going to involve some degree of discussing the truth about what happened. And that's only right. It's your job to suck it up and deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. For as much as you want to make it one, it's going to be okay, most likely. There are these cases that are totaled, but most likely it's going to be okay. It will not guarantee yourself it will not be okay if you don't hold that space.
Correct.
I promise you that. One guarantee I will make you is that will end in abject failure as a relationship, as a couple.
I started watching Shameless again.
Oh, wow.
So it's just interesting that we bring up shame, because Shameless is, it's a deep, dark show.
Yeah. A lot of themes of addiction.
And the whole thing is like, there's no shame. They don't have shame. So he continues to do the same thing over and over again, harming the people around them. Shame is an important emotion for change.
It is.
It really
don't
is.
live there forever, but it's supposed to drive you somewhere else.
It is. It is.
It is a kick in the ass kind of emotion that's supposed to get you to a new place. So I would hope that you're adult enough to be ready to have these kinds of conversations. Anger is a real thing for them, and you have to understand why, man. You would have to understand why. I hope you can empathize with why that is. If you're going to be anything close to a good man, you're going to have to walk through this stuff, and it's going to be okay. I promise you. Many have done it before you. There are support groups for us too to talk about this kind of stuff. It's going to be okay, but you have to allow space for it. And then for spouses and partners, yeah, it's a very normal process to go through this pink cloud, and then you go into anger. And then at some point, you're going to resolve that anger as you're able to kind of reconcile all of this stuff and recreate your assumptive reality and come to terms with it. And then when you see the positive changes, it's easier to walk forward through that. And you're always going to have that, that you're going to remember it. It doesn't go away. Like as much as you want to just not be angry, you're angry because you probably haven't acknowledged this stuff. Now, at some point, you will get to make a decision on that, as we talked about. And that's kind of a fun time. That's actually when it's like, okay, now like everything's cool. Like I can cool my jets. Like we can walk forward. Like we do have a decision to make today. Like we've resolved things. We're walking forward. Everything's peaceful. I've got some unresolved stuff. And now it's like it's your job to do work.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And that's at the point at which spouses do work. I know that I've talked to so many people day one. She needs to get in there. She needs a therapist. She ain't going to do shit. You got a lot of work to do first. You set the terms of this. You make it safe, and then we'll talk about her. That's what I tell everybody.
That's true.
You make it safe, then we'll talk about her. Yep. She will have work to do at some point, but not until there's
safety.
Peace and there's safety in the relationship. And that is really dependent on you, man. So,
but I mean, you can still start the process if they're still in active addiction. Sure. That's why I talk about that.
Life's hard. Get a helmet.
So true.
That's all we've got.
Yes.
Appreciate you all. Appreciate all your support going through the holiday season here. Wishing you all. Actually, is this the last one before? Are we going to do one? Christmas is on a Thursday?
Right. There's a Christmas, the Wednesday, Christmas Eve. We will not have one then, but we will probably release one New Year's Eve.
We're thinking about having a fun one too. Sort of at the end of the year.
Yeah, but we have a third one series for this.
I just want to tell them about the one that we're talking about with Freights.
Okay.
Tufo After Dark. We've talked about this. A lot of times at the end of the year, we do a reflection episode. We'd like to do that as we usually do. But on top of that, we'd like to take you guys behind the scenes a little bit, which is kind of fun.
We can release this on a different day.
Yeah, to see what goes into it. But we're kind of playing this in the background. We don't get super personal about like what life is like in our lives today and everything else. It's a lot of times it's focused around the content. But I think it's going to be kind of fun to look into this. It'd be more of a fun, lighthearted episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh, somebody requested that we talk about like what we learned or whatnot over there. Is that what it was? Yeah, I think that'll be interesting. It'll be a fun conversation to have.
It will. Yeah, it'll be a third person on too. We don't have a lot of guests. We've got some planned for the coming year. So stay tuned with us, guys. Like it's growing. It's getting better. It's holiday season, so we're slowing down a little bit. We do appreciate your patience through it, like truly. It's been a joy for us. Hopefully you're still getting something from the content. As busy as you guys are, I know it's hard to keep up this time of year anyway. Like someone even thanked us, like, thank you for not releasing too much because I feel backlogged and guilty because I'm missing all this stuff because there's just, my routine is broken, It's part of it. But we appreciate you guys sticking around. All the support you've given us for all the orders and everything. We appreciate you guys. We love you.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's all we've got. Until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
We'll see you.
Bye.